Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Networking Thursday. It is April 13th, 2023. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. For those people on Zoom, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just enter them into the chat window. For those watching on Facebook, please just enter your questions in the comment field. We are monitoring both feeds. We'll be sure to get those questions answered for you at the end of the presentation. Also, if you'd like to connect with those people who are on the call, this is all about networking. Put in your contact information. Carrie already put in her information. But put in your contact information, be sure to include your LinkedIn address so that everybody can connect with everybody else who's on this call. So you can expand your connections and you never know who you'll be able to help today. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I started a second website, careerusa.org, to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search You May Not Know. You can find it on Amazon, or if you see me in person, I sell it for 2/3 of the price of what you can get it on Amazon. And since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. I'll tell you about our upcoming program tomorrow morning at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team. You got to remember, your resume and your LinkedIn profile don't get you a job. What they do get you is a phone call. How well you practice your interviewing skills. That's what's going to get you your next job. So for more information, just go to dallaspitcrew.com and you'll get everything you need to know right there. All right, well, every session we have a different speaker talking about networking. We've had 21 different speakers over the last year and a half, 2 years. Today, our speaker is Charlie Zinger. He's the Vice President of Career Management Partners. This is a pre-recorded session. So it was recorded last year. So we will take any questions you have at the end of this session. So just put any questions you've got into the comment field and we'll have Charlie do his thing right now.
Quickly, my background, I actually started recruiting here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for EDS and Ross Perot 42 years ago. Over the years, I've run recruiting departments for 4 different billion-dollar organizations: EDS, ACS, Concentra, DynCorp's LogCap 4 program. I also spent 10 years at EDS in operations as a vice president of the call center and help desk business unit. I've been with Career Management Partners now the last 11 years, and we are a talent and transition firm. We focus on 3 areas, which is executive search, talent development and assessment coaching, and the executive coaching, and then outplacement services. And that's really what my strength has been for the last 11 years with CMP. What we're going to do is got to cover different things, and what I want to do is just my definition, if you will, of networking. It's very basic, and I'm going to give you several examples of different forms of networking that have been successful. We're going to talk about targeted companies, which are absolutely critical to your success as a job seeker. We're going to talk about reference resources, because anytime you're going to get into an informational interview or you start networking, especially for a targeted company, you want to be as prepared as possible. We're going to then talk about finding potential contacts at those companies and some things to consider as to how you do that. And then we'll go ahead and talk about also when you do get that face-to-face, ideally an informational interview or whatever it might be, a one-on-one meeting, and how really to prepare for that, and some things to possibly, or at least one thing to possibly take with you. And then we'll wrap it up, and any further questions or comments I'll gladly address for you. So real quickly, as far as networking defined, as I said, I just look at it very loosely, and that is It's as far as contacting and getting a hold of people with the purpose of you're looking for advice, you're looking for information, and you're looking for ways that you could possibly get the names of other people with whom to network. You do not want to be asking people for a job. Networking is not the idea of contacting somebody and asking for a job. It starts with that conversation. And so you have to be really careful of that. So we'll talk, a little bit more about that later on. So some examples of networking, and I guess like almost anybody, I do have an ego, but that's not the reason. I'm going to use my own experience to explain different ways that networking has come into play. In the last 10 years, 11 years, I've worked for 7 companies, and with every single one, I found a job through networking. And so going back to 2000, I ended up, I was with a small .com down in Austin. 9/11 took us to our knees right at the end of 2001. And so, or I'm sorry, 2000. And so, okay, I'm sorry. The company initially, Tonic Software, went out of business. And so one of my coworkers and I were laid off the same week. And he found another position a couple of days later. He's a software engineer. So once he got there, he contacted me. He said, I'm talking to Tonic, would you be interested? He put me in touch with some people. And that's how I found that position as a director of client services. It was networking with a former employee with whom I had just worked 2 or 3 weeks prior for a full year. After 9/11 took Tonic to its knees, took me a while to find my next position. Joanna and I really wanted to get back here to Dallas. So I started networking with folks with whom I'd worked at EDS and other places. And through 2 EDS former colleagues, team members from the recruiting department, I ended up getting hired over at ACS. And that was as a VP of staffing. And that was in 2002. And so it went from networking with a recent former employee, colleague, to somebody from 2 people really from 13 years prior. When my position was eliminated during a restructuring at HCS, I ended up getting more involved with networking, found South Lake Focus Group. And about 2 months after I got started there, I actually found my position with Concentra, starting with my 30-second elevator speech at the South Lake Focus Group. I just got up and said, this is me, former VP staffing for EDS and ACS. I'm looking for a similar type position. Went on beyond that. And then during a break, one of the individuals came up to me and said, hey, I'm looking to get into EDS. So if you've got any contacts, I'd really appreciate it. By the way, I've got a friend who is a consultant with Aon Hewitt on the HR side. You really need to talk to Wayne Brittingham. So he put me in touch with Wayne. We met the following week. And near the end of that conversation, he said, I just started a consulting gig with Concentra. So go to their website, apply online for the VP of staffing, and I'll get your resume to Tammy Steele, who is the SVP HR, and we'll see what we can do. I ended up getting hired about 4 weeks after that, and that came through networking, starting at South Lake Focus Group in an elevator speech. So when you're talking about targeted companies, part of that is also, where did you work before? So then after 3 years, another reorganization, and my position went away. It was blended with the VP of Leadership and Development to create the VP of Talent. And so I started my job search again and ended up finding the next position through a former vendor that with Hurian, which is a small recruitment process outsourcing company that had marketed their capabilities to us at Concentra. And so after a few weeks of discussions and things, I ended up getting hired there and spent a year before the company went out of business. And so I said, all right, fine, I'm just back on the job market again, and started trying to figure out where I'm going to go. Started going through the networking and absolutely weekly meetings at South Lake Focus Group. Then one Saturday, I was playing golf with a very good friend with whom I met him through a networking group about 10 years, 13 years prior. And I just asked him, could I do what you guys do over at CMP? And he said, well, sure you could, but why would you want to? So we spent the next hour and a half, 2 hours in the golf cart talking about what CMP does, outplacement services, career coaching, and things like that. Monday afternoon, he called me and said, you need to talk to Keith, Keith Nave, who is the founder and at that time the owner of CMP. So again, networking on a golf course on a Saturday morning with a golfing buddy turned into my next position. After about a year that I had been at CMP, I got a call from a person that I'd been in another networking group with. This is a group for senior HR execs. I'm still part of that, DFW DHRE. Scott called and said, hey, I've been over here at Concentra, or I'm sorry, at DynCorp, and where the senior recruiting director is looking for somebody to head up recruiting for his log cap program. Would you be interested? And I just said, gee, Scott, I love CMP, but I'm always open for conversations. So the next day I had a lengthy conversation, phone conversation with Mark Ray, the senior director of recruiting. And then following week, the end of the week on Friday, I went over to meet him face to face. The following week, I got an offer. And that's how I ended up with the director of recruiting for LogCap 4 at DynCorp, again, through a networking buddy. I was not proactive on that one, but because of the networking group that I've been with for years, that turned into, here's how we get that. And so after about a year, 15 months at DynCorp, here comes another reorganization. And so my position ended up getting revamped, if you will. So I called back over to CMP to see if they were looking for anybody at all. And shortly afterwards, Keith called me, Keith Nave again, and said, we'd love to have you come back. So my point is, here are 7 different positions, all either director or VP level, each one of them coming from a networking contact. And the one that I didn't even know about, Concentra, was posted, but I didn't know anything about that. So again, the whole point is that's the name of the game when you get into looking for a job. It's proof positive as far as being able to find positions, especially for folks closer to my vintage, if you will. And so it just becomes absolutely critical to be able to make sure you're continuing in the networking. One of the things I've been doing at Celtic Focus Group, I've been with Celtic Focus Group for 17 years on the leadership team, the last 11. I keep track every week of how people land jobs. And I've sent that email out in the first week of January every year, just letting people know, here's how our people landed jobs again. And up until last year, COVID just really greatly reduced by at least 35%, 40% the number of landings we had. We had 208 people land last year, and 62% of those got their jobs, 61 or 62% got their jobs through networking. In the prior 6 years, networking again led all the way from 44% up to 53%. And we were averaging 320, 350. I think one year we topped 400 landings. But again, for 7 straight years, and we're already on pace to do exactly the same this year, where networking is the absolutely critical part of being able to find a job, find contacts, make the contacts, and be able to go from there. So talking about as far as targeted companies, I mentioned that earlier, it's absolutely critical to have a list of targeted companies so you can start finding contacts at those companies. Now, how many you should have really is a personal choice. It really gets into your style as much as anything. At Celtic Focus Group, during the orientation for first timers, Job Search Jumpstart, we recommend at least 50, somewhere between 50 and 100. Others look at us saying, I'd much rather go with a sniper shot. Let me really concentrate on these 15 or 20 or whatever it might be. Whatever the number, it's absolutely critical to have an idea as to where you want to work. And there are some tremendous resources available to you to find out where those, who those companies are, where they are, what they do. And you can sort, and one of the first ones that comes up is the Resource USA, I believe it is. Yeah, I'm sorry, Reference Solutions. And in fact, Mike Ray and Kip Lipson are doing their presentation tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock through one of the networking focus groups. And then again on Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And so it's a tremendous resource. And I know there are 2 or 3 others out there where you can do your research of companies based on the size of company by revenue, size of company by employees, public, private, not-for-profit, location, 20 miles or 40 minutes or whatever from your home. So it's a really, really good resource. And I encourage you, if you've not gone through Mike and Kip's workshop, that you put it on your calendar for either tomorrow evening or Wednesday afternoon. And then, by the way, I'm not sure, I'm guessing, I don't like to use the word assume, but it's still the same thing. A lot of you are from the North Dallas Plano area, Richardson, whatever it might be. And you may well already be aware of an outstanding resource, and that is Plano Economic Development. And all you need to do is Google Plano Economic Development. And in the homepage, it'll have, I think the second option is the reference library. And then when you go into that, you go down to major employers, and there are 10 different categories of major employers based on location. Either they're in the Central Expressway US 75 corridor, the Dallas North Tollway corridor, Legacy Park, whatever it might be. And so again, here are the names of all kinds of companies that I promise you the vast majority of us have never heard of. But if staying within a short proximity of a short drive of where you live is key, it's an excellent place to go. My point here is that there are a lot of really, really wonderful resources available to you as far as building your contact list, your targeted companies list. So once you've got your targeted companies, now it gets into how do you find those contacts? Well, the first one that I'm sure every one of us not only is well aware, but also are using as often as we can is LinkedIn. And of course, again, Jeff provides a tremendous tool to facilitators on LinkedIn Tuesday afternoon through careerdfw.org. I believe Terry Sullivan is the facilitator tomorrow, but Ruth and Kurt and Locke all are outstanding in their focuses as well. And so just a matter of going to the companies, find out who you know, maybe it's second line contact, and then you can see who else you may know that may be able to get you that contact. But it goes much beyond that. Unless something's changed, I believe you can still join up to 100 different groups in LinkedIn. And as you know, once you join that group, you automatically have access to all of the other members. And so as far as joining the groups from, let's say, the alumni group of every company where you've ever worked, every school you've ever attended, any of the professional organizations, same thing again, is that you want to be joining these groups and then finding out who you know that's already a member of that group. And it turns into just a tremendous resource again, as far as where you can find contacts at these targeted companies. And then, of course, Career DFW is an outstanding resource as well. And one of the best places, I know that the people with whom I've worked that have been assigned to me for the last 11 years at CMP is where I really advocate participating in job fairs. Now, based on the last 7 years at Celtic Focus Group, the odds of you finding a job at a job fair, probably somewhere around 2 or 3%, had gotten to a high of 5% a few years ago, but especially now that everything is virtual, it cuts down a little bit. But 2% beats 0%. And especially now that you're able to participate online, when you're able to be there in person. And I've had several people, job seekers have mentioned that they find that is one of the best places to network, just standing in line at a booth waiting to talk to a recruiter at a targeted company or a company of interest, and being able to exchange business cards with the persons in front of them, behind them, whatever it might be. And the other thing about participating in the job fairs is that even if you're not really looking for the positions that are at the top of their hire list, you still have a chance to interface with recruiters and get those names and then put those people into your contact list, send them invitations to connect, establish contacts one way or the other. There is a healthcare, and I'll have to look at my notes. I've still got the announcement. It's a healthcare related company, and everything, I mean, it's most of, I think 5 positions they have targeted, and 3 of them are pretty much hourly. They do have some very targeted healthcare professionals in there as well. But if you're in the healthcare industry or you're targeting it, again, it would be a wonderful place to go just to be able to get exposure to that company and people within the company. Industry associations, again, just an outstanding, if you're an outstanding resource. For those of us in the HR world, there's the DFW-TRN, the Texas Recruiter Network. There's Dallas HR. There are several others. And again, outstanding venues for networking. If you're a PMP, you've got PMI meetings, I believe, at least on a monthly basis. I've got different chapters here in Dallas and in Fort Worth. Try to go to both of them, again, to make sure you've got those contacts. The networking focus groups. I mentioned earlier, I've been part of South Lake Focus Group for 17 years. And also with this, it's called the DFW DHRE, Dallas Fort Worth Human Resources Executive Focus Group. We meet at the CMP office and Zoom first and third Wednesdays. It's for very senior HR execs. We've had 19 people already land jobs since the first of the year. That's 19 executives with a minimum of 15 years experience and strong 6-figure salaries have already been able to find jobs. And again, networking is the key way that people are finding these jobs. So again, there are just more and more resources out there available to you. One of them also for people, I believe in, again, a 6-figure type of salary is the MEG, the local group here, the mid-level executive group that Midge Duncan heads up, outstanding resource. In fact, I think they've got their regular monthly happy hour, virtual happy hour coming up tomorrow evening. So again, these resources are just about everywhere you want to look to be able to just continue to be able to build on whatever you can to make those contacts. One other resource, it's a lot of people just kind of blow off because it's quote unquote a government organization, is Texas Workforce Commission through the Workforce Solutions offices. For those of us in Tarrant County, the Alliance Opportunity Center is just an incredible resource for people. One of the key people there, Kathy Mills. In fact, Kathy was at the South Lake Focus Group meeting this last Thursday, talking about a job fair that she has coming up. But these organizations are absolutely wonderful. They've got contacts within contacts. They've got certainly plugged into so many companies that they support. So if you're not already working with the Workforce Solutions office nearest you, strongly recommend that you consider that. And another one, if you're not aware of North Texas LEAD, that's LEAD, which stands for Leaders and Executives Advocating Diversity. Started about 21 years ago. Gina Gibbons is the person who helped start that. It started off that it was Tarrant County centric. Several major companies over there wanted to really start building their diversity employee population. And so they have now opened that up to every race, color, creed, age, discipline, level, whatever it might be. So if you're not aware of North Texas LEAD, and by the way, they really have been expanding into Dallas County as well, and look them up, just Google NT LEAD or North Texas LEAD, and you'll be able to get a wealth of information about an organization that absolutely has inroads to each one of its sponsoring companies and does a great job of supporting you in your job search as well. So one of the things that I also wanted to talk about is that when you finally do have your informational interviews, and hopefully you're getting back into face-to-face And I realize most Starbucks still are drive-through only, but when I go past the one here in Colleyville, I see that today's certainly not the case, but almost every day that it's even halfway decent, several people are sitting out under the umbrellas, just chatting, whatever they might be doing. But when you get your informational interview, one of the key things to do that, first of all, is really, really strong preparation. Please be sure that you know who it is that you're going to be talking to and why. Do some research on his or her background. Make sure that you're prepared to talk about who you are, your elevator speech, what you're looking for. And something that you may want to consider doing is creating a handbill. Call it whatever you may want. This is not a bio, an official, this is me and here's the family and what I like to do in my spare time. This is a very targeted one-page document that you can hand to someone as a takeaway. You certainly want to be taking your resume with you, but most people, maybe they've already seen it. Most likely they've already seen your resume, and that's one of the reasons he or she has agreed to meet with you. But the one-page handbill is something that can really, really help target what you're looking for, and for that person to have an understanding to be able to further help you. Let me just grab one of the people that, one of the more senior finance guys, did a great, an outstanding one. And what he has is, he's got his targeted companies, basically identifying 4 major areas: professional service firms, Focus 500 marketing clients, Fortune 500 sales organizations, and then startups. And it talks about the situational analysis, just what the landscape might be at a targeted company right now. Different examples of targeted roles in Dennis's case: EVP Finance, SVP Finance, VP Finance and Development, Executive Director of Marketing Finance, on and on and on. He's got about 10 different job titles that he's looking at. Then he gets further into some of the other areas as far as his value proposition, some really excellent metrics as to the performance that he's generated in the past, just things that go with his areas of expertise as a senior finance person. So again, this is one where I strongly recommend that you have a tool like this, the one-page handbill, that also gives a person a chance to write on it, take notes as the two of you are just trading thoughts over coffee or Cokes or whatever it might be.
Hey, Charlie, do you have an example of that as compared to an executive bio?
Well, and again, the answer is yes, I do. And if you want to send me an email, I'll send it to you as an attachment. My email address is right at the top of my LinkedIn profile, charliezinger@aol.com. But yes, Mark has, actually, he's got a one-pager and a two-pager. So I will gladly make that available to you. Just send it to me. Be sure to reference our meeting today here today. So I've just think I've pretty much covered everyone. Oh yeah, be sure, just as when you go through an interview, after you have that one-on-one, the informational, whatever it might be, you want to be sure to send a thank you note. So what we have done, and I realize we're only about 25 minutes here, 30 minutes or so, but we started off talking about the defining networking, and gave you a bunch of different examples of different ways of networking that have turned out to be successful for at least one job seeker. We talked about targeted companies and how critical it is to have targeted companies to be able to identify those where you want to work, but also to help people understand where you'd like to work, give you an idea, give them an idea at least the kind of industry that you're targeting. We talked about research resources and how critical it is to make sure you've done some really good research. We talked about the potential, how do you find those contacts, LinkedIn, networking groups, industry associations, whatever it might be. We talked about what do you do when you finally get that face-to-face? What's the best way to go about that? And then just again, I guess the best way here now is to turn it over and remind everybody again that the mantra we've had for 17 years I've been with South Lake Focus Group is networking forever. And I would guess that a lot of you, if not the majority of you, have already gone through the soul searching and committed to yourself saying, I will never again let my network lapse. I will continue doing this as long as I possibly can. So also one other little tidbit, playing semantics, and that is what I have to remind people all the time, where in fact I had a conversation this morning with an individual that looks like he's finally going to have what appears to be a hiring interview this coming Friday morning. And I just had to remind him, I just said, Mike, just remember, the number one goal of a hiring interview is not to get a job. It's to get a job offer so you can make a decision as to what's best for you and yours. Maybe another way to say it is you cannot turn down an offer you don't get. So I think I've taken 5 or 6 breaths in the last half hour or so. What kinds of questions or comments can I address for anybody here?
Well, the interesting thing was people wanted to see, I mean, a couple people wanted to see the handout that you have. So I think that's very interesting. In the chat box, I've been posting the links to things that Charlie's been talking about. I've just posted the 2 links for the 2 upcoming how to find target companies with Mike Ray and Kip Lipson. So those are all in the chat box for you. Questions that anybody had? Oh, here, networking and ageism, especially if you're in your late 50s. Is it different networking that way than networking, 20s and 30s and 40s?
Well, number one, I've been a job seeker in my 40s and in my 50s and in my 60s. So yes, ageism is alive and well. And that's the first thing is coming to grips and acknowledge, look, there are age bigots out there, just as there are race, color, creed bigots. There are certification bigots, there are education bigots, military bigots. So they're out there, and you just have to accept that there's going to be a bias, whether it's built in or acquired, however it got to somebody. And most of the time, you're not going to know it in those words, but you'll certainly think it. If somebody wants to be that way, most likely you don't want to work for that individual anyway. But for what it's worth, I got hired at DynCorp a week before my 63rd birthday. Hiring manager was not interested in how long I was going to stay around. He was interested in who can come in here and help me with this project because I'm getting beat up. On the other hand, back when I left ACS, I believe it was, or maybe it was Concentra, I was interviewing with a manufacturing company in North Dallas. The outgoing director of recruiting was a very good friend. We had meetings. I was over at his office. He was showing me everything in there, and he would say, and here's where you'll sit, and here's your team, everything like the job is already mine. And then a week later, I got a call that he just said, geez, I feel so bad, but we're going in a different direction. I got feedback about a month later where the hiring manager, Greg's manager, came right out and said, why would you hire this guy? He's going to retire in 5 years. So it's there. And again, I was disappointed that I didn't get a chance to strap that one on. I think it would have been a great fit. But I'll also say that Joanne and I have been very, very thankful over and over for the jobs we didn't get. You just have to believe that things happen for a reason. Not going to get into, well, I will. The big guy upstairs has got a plan. And so you just have to stay with it, and you'll know it when you see it and when it's put in front of you. So, but I will say this, it's even more critical to be doing your networking face-to-face as much as you can when you are, let's say, same vintage, if you will, just if nothing else, just to be able to show your personality and just express your energy level, just in the way you carry yourself and the way you do things. So yeah, it's a challenge. I'm not going to kid anybody, but I'll also say that if you've got a targeted company, number one, your number one objective every time is to get your resume into that company's corporate database, into their applicant tracking system. And so more and more companies are giving you the ability to upload your resume even if they don't have a posted position that appeals to you. But if you can't upload your resume, my strong advice there, my recommendation is to find any position, apply anyway. Yeah, you'll get the standard email response. Thanks for applying. Don't call us, we'll call you. But at least your resume is in that corporate database. The directive I've given to every recruiting team I've led in the last 19 years has been, all right, recruiters, anytime you get a new requisition, before you even post that on our website, get into the database and see if you got anybody at all that's even 70%, 80% qualified. Because if you do, you've got the battle half won. They've already expressed an interest in us. And a great example is when I ran recruiting for ACS from 02 to 04. My gosh, we had a terrible reputation. We were a revolving door, a sweatshop. I mean, it was just terrible. And so we turned that into the entree, if you will, the entry into a call from somebody who had applied earlier. And so it'd say, hey, Bill, I see you applied for a position here about 6 months ago. Don't know if you're interested in hearing more. I've got a position that seems to have your name written on it. But let me ask you this. Have you not heard of our reputation? Do you not know who we are? And so most would be a little sheepish. You say, well, yeah. And they said, well, why would you want to work here? Well, because you got great technology and you got a great customer list and you keep beating out EDS and Perot for those government contracts, Blue Cross Blue Shield contacts. So yeah, I know what I'm getting into, and things change anyway. So you want to get your resume into as many corporate databases as possible to enhance your ability to hopefully be contacted should something come up that you don't even know about that company, or that, well, you know about the company, but a position that possibly is being created or just doesn't have the same job title that you might think of.
All right, Carol on Facebook says, what do you recommend we say when we're reaching out to someone for an informational interview? What words should we use?
Well, they've got to be your words, but that would be just, Mike, this is me. And if you can cite somebody, I got your name from Bill Ray, suggested I contact you. I'm in transition. My last position with ACS was eliminated, and I'm actually looking at my next opportunity. And I've been looking at TI now for several years. And so I've been trying to find somebody who can provide me some insight into the culture, maybe even the hiring process, but especially the culture. What is it like to work there? And I realize TI is a huge company, but what's been your experience? And so I'm just looking for some thoughts about what it's like to work there, the kind of people are there, the leadership, and to be able to just help me with my narrowing it down, the focus of where I want to work next.
Okay. Thank you. Somebody put a comment in the chat box. Millennials rarely last even 2 years. So what is it if someone will retire in 5 years? What,
Exactly. Well, and one of the other things that it's a huge irritation is that having a hiring manager that only wants somebody who is currently working. Drives me nuts. Every position I just mentioned before, with the exception of going back to CMP, I was out of a job, and it wasn't through any fault of my own. 3 companies had gone out of business. 3 others, I don't remember to this day if I was downsized or right-sized or reorged or whacked. Didn't matter what they called it. It just meant I was looking for a job again, only more gray hair and a year older. So stuff happens. So it's just, you just look at it and say, all right, fine. If you've got a hiring manager like that, well, so be it. As things get moving more and more back to the supply and demand, where the supply of your talent and areas of experience and expertise are in strong demand, and your competition is not as strong as it might have been before, things are going to start leveling out. But again, it's an issue. There's no doubt about it.
So looking back, I mean, you don't look a day over 29, but if you look back over the last 30 years, 40 years, whatever, you said you changed jobs several times in the last 7 to 10 years. And before that, I guess you had longer stints with a company. Were you always, I mean, you've been attending South, you've been part of the leadership team at South Lake Focus Group for the last 11 years, you said. Has networking always sort of been in your blood, even 20, 30 years ago, or is that something that you sort of picked up more and more on in the last 15, 20 years?
That's a great question. Yeah, I was with EDS for 19 years and then took an early out. Back in 99, new CEO came in. He was going to cut $1 billion in costs his first year. We were a $17 billion company. I was in operations at the time. Joanna and I had been living in Europe for 3.5 years. So it appeared to be a good job market. So I tell you, we'll take our chances. So we took the early out. I was 52 years old at the time, didn't know how to spell retirement. And first job I got was from posting my resume on Monster, believe it or not. About a week after I posted it, I got contacted by a recruiter with this small .com down in Austin and got hired about 3 weeks later. But no, Jeff, I'm introverted. I just, anytime I go to a party, I look for two things: the bar and a corner. Let me get a drink first, and then I'm going to go off to myself as quickly as I can. I'll smile and I'll do whatever I can, but no, that is very uncomfortable for me. So it took a lot of work and a lot to get comfortable, and especially in coaching people and recommending different ways to do this.
So what do you recommend for those? I mean, I'm an introvert also. So what do you recommend for people who would like to just get in the corner? I mean, the fact that you even went there was good, but what else would you, what would you tell people who are introverts about how they should do that?
Well, classic is choose which problem you want to live with, but it's not to be trite, but practice, practice, practice. You go and it may be going with somebody else. I mean, I would be ideal if I wasn't a lot older than my oldest son, who has never met a stranger. He's been in sales the last 15 years and wildly successful. And so I would go someplace with him, just be his wingman, tuck under back at the 4 o'clock position, and then just let him do all the talking. And I just nod and I'll take one of those business cards as well. There are ways I think you can do it, but it's what fits you more easily than others. And it might be one that like going to a focus group meeting, especially as we're getting back on site, where it starts off, it's in a smaller group. And so it's kind of not as overwhelming to have 3 or 4 people in your little the table at which you're sitting, as opposed to a room filled with 240, 250 people, the way we had it at White's Chapel, the South Lake Focus Group before COVID.
Right. I was posting the 2 things for Kip for the, how to research companies. Yes, it's tomorrow night at 6:30, and then Thursday at 1 o'clock. So you do need to register for the Thursday class. The Tuesday night class, you can just pop in using the. Let me stop right there, as those sessions were from last year. I know there will be a future session for reference solutions, whatever. If anybody has any questions, you're welcome to unmute your mic, ask away. I'll see how I can help you. Any questions anybody has? Otherwise, we'll just sort of move on and end a little bit early today.
Hi, Jeff. Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Gabriela. Thank you so much. I enjoy all the content you put out, and I loved hearing this last part because, I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm an extreme extrovert.
Good. Well, that's why you've offered to say something today.
Yes. But, I'm surrounded, like in a lot of my jobs in the past, I've been surrounded. I've been the lone extrovert, because I work with the National Cancer Institute where, lots of scientists work. And I know it's a shock, but a lot of them are introverts. And so what I'm looking to do is create events when I'm there, so that I can start building my network, because in San Antonio, where I'm moving from, I knew people across the board, and I need to start doing that. So I'm trying to look at your career DFW so I could get my calendar, so I can get myself a schedule. Because I'm looking to work and live hopefully in Arlington. That's my goal, and I'm looking for a hybrid position, because I've been in high traffic places. I've lived in DC and New York. And so I'm always looking for your best tips. So any of your best tips, welcome, bring them to me, because I need to start creating structure. I'm going to start volunteering somewhere, because I need somewhere to, like in the beginning of the day, start off my day doing something active, because I'm an extrovert. So I need to get like my contact people high of the day. Then I can go back and work.
Well, one of the things you'll find in the Dallas-Fort Worth area is that there's plenty of networking groups. A number of them are now meeting in person again. I know of one group that meets on Monday for sure, Monday morning. Another group that meets Tuesday, Wednesdays. I know the South Lake group meets on Thursday mornings. My group leads on Friday mornings. So there's at least one networking group you can go to almost every day of the week, most weeks.
Okay, definitely. I'm going to do that. I've been to the Monday one, the South Lake one. Oh my goodness, I'm so glad somebody told me about that one. I'm hoping to go to yours tomorrow morning, so that I can start being a resource. Yeah,
Right.
because I want to, I believe in service, and practicing hope like the South Lake people say. Would you happen to know? I mean, I wonder of the South Lake people and all of those people, if there's a critical mass of them that live in one specific pocket. I know for sure Frisco Plano. I know for sure that's a hotspot, but I'm just curious, where else? Because as I'm thinking about creating networking events in person, to keep it like to 15 people, to help the introverts not be overwhelmed and to go deeper into the connections, I'm trying to just see, is there a location that would be better or not for me to start?
Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, I would say that's probably the prime area, North Dallas, Fort Worth, North Fort Worth, I think. There's not a lot of groups that meet along I-30. The I-30 corridor goes through downtown Dallas, downtown Fort Worth, or the Arlington HEB area. There's Texas Workforce has the Fort Worth Tarrant County workforce offices. They're pretty good. They've got some really good groups that are meeting. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a matter of, when you go to a meeting, find out where people are at and, go from there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jeff.
You're welcome. I did put that handout, handbill for one-on-one networking document. I put that in the chat window. So if you were not able to download it, please feel free to reach out to me and I'll be glad to get that document to me. Just let me know that, that's the document you're looking for.
Thank you. Do you have the other documents from other sessions in your website? Because I know you have a lot of resources and I'm just trying to absorb as many of them as possible.
It just sort of depends. I mean, if there's a certain episode, if you've seen a certain show, if you contact me, I'll a lot of them are posted on the careerusa.org website. If you go to resources and then videos, I've got a lot of the main documents that go to networking and effective resumes and the interviewing sessions. Those are all listed right there along with links to get to the YouTube channel. So, but if there's a specific document you need from a specific video that you've seen, just feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let me just share a few more slides. We'll get out of here today a little bit early. Here is Charlie's LinkedIn page. If you'd like to connect with him, you're welcome to do so. He was unable to join us today. He's got a meeting that goes from 1 to 3 o'clock on today, so he was unable to join us. But he knows that we were replaying his show. So if you'd like to reach out to him, just let him know you saw him here today on Networking Thursday. Next, let's see here. Let me get the slides going. Career at FW and Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Please join us tomorrow morning. I will be sharing Jeff's top 10 tips for job search. The top 10 things think you need to be doing. This used to be called Jeff's top 10 pet peeves that I see people do in their job search, but I've sort of changed it to be a little bit more positive things that you need to think about, things you need to do. So that's tomorrow morning, 9:30 Central Time, the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. We are meeting in person. We'd love to see you in person. Come join us in person if you can. A bunch of us will go out to lunch afterwards. So hopefully we will see you tomorrow morning. Next Tuesday, for LinkedIn Tuesdays, Terry Sullivan will be with us to talk about how to create a LinkedIn brand that tells your key contacts who you are, what you do, and how you can help. The event will not be recorded. He doesn't allow recording. So if you do want to see Terry's presentation, you will need to watch it live next Tuesday. And then next Wednesday, if you're interviewing Wednesdays, we're actually going to be meeting in person. They meet in person on the first and third Wednesdays. We have I believe we've got an interview already lined up for next Thursday, but we can take a second if you're interested. So come join us in person. There'll be no online Zoom or Facebook Live session. We will be back with an online session on the second and fourth and fifth Wednesdays of the month. Will be online only. We had a great interview this past week. The week before when we met in person, we had 2 really good interviews. So if you'd like to sign up for an interview, just reach out to dallaspickcrew@gmail.com. Send your resume and your job description, and we'll get you signed up. If you'd like to join the Career DFW or Career USA LinkedIn groups, you're welcome to do so. You do not need to live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to join the Career DFW group. I just happened to start that when I started the website. We've got over 14,700 members, and I will tell you this, that probably 1 out of 15 of those members work in HR or they work in recruiting, and they're trying to find you. They don't want to pay LinkedIn for the recruiting package, but by joining the group, they're able to search people that are in that group. So feel free to join us. Make sure your profile's mostly complete. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel. On the Career USA YouTube channel, click on playlist. I have over 480 videos on there, but if you click on playlist and then down at the very bottom, pick whichever playlist you want. There's one of 7 different lists. Click on view full playlist. Excuse me. And when you do, up will come a list of all the different dates and topics of who talked, and you can go back and watch any one that you'd like. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops, grab your camera right now. You can join the Career USA mailing list. Just scan the QR code. It'll start an email automatically for you. And all you have to do is hit send. Once it loads into your mail program, you don't have to add any text. You don't have to do anything else. Just go hit send and go. Or you can send an email to Career USA, the +subscribe@groups.io. You'll never be spammed, but what you will get is the title of the day, the topic of the day, and most importantly, the Zoom link of the day. That way you'll be able to just open the email and join our session. Please remember, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have no full or part-time employees. All of our speakers are volunteers. I'm a volunteer. Everything I've done over the last 14 years has just been here to help you land your next great opportunity. So thank you very much for joining us today, everybody. There's that QR code over there on the lower right-hand side. Please join if you're not part of it. So everybody have a great weekend, great Thursday afternoon. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow morning.